It was a overwhelming experience, as you can imagine. Arriving in Parliament for your first day on the job is a big enough thing in itself, but it very rapidly became clear that, you know, this building was built in 1988 and as such has not kept up with the times as it comes to accessibility. The toilets in my office weren't accessible, many of the courtyards are blocked by steppages, there wasn't, you know, proper rampways and things in the chamber, and the procedural and process side of the Senate in terms of the kind of funnily named standing orders and what that requires you to do in terms of mobility to get the call, relinquish the call, make yourself heard. So that very quickly became clear to me that we were a bit behind the times. We've managed to make some modifications to the chamber just so I could get to and use a desk, which was wonderfully undertaken in a couple of days by the carpentry department here. But more broadly, you know, at the moment when we go into a division, I have to kind of sit at the back, away from my colleagues.
Please recite the affirmation on the card handed to you.
If there's somebody new sworn in, the tradition is to go onto the floor and shake their hand, and I can't really do that because I can't get down the steps. If there is a moment of condolence, we're all asked to rise in our places. We've had 2 Australians elected with physical disabilities, myself and Graham Edwards. We've had no terrorist incidents in Australia, and yet we're investing billions of dollars to modify Parliament to keep the wrong people out. And we're yet to see how much we'll be investing to enable the right people to get in. Traditionally, a senator would stand to take the call and sit to signify that they had released the call, and I tried to a couple of times to moderate the pace of my speech, and the president at the time thought I had concluded and moved on to a colleague. So I don't know whether they were trying to send me a subtle message there, and I'm in conversations at the moment to make sure that a specially made bench will be added at some point next to myself, and that we can do something around divisions and things so I can stay within the chamber's seating circle. I think we really need to make sure and value the symbolism of these things. You know, if somebody is physically excluded from a space and that is visually seen to be the case, then that sends a strong message about the role of that person within that institution. So we do need to address those things urgently. A needle in a haystack. I spent about 6 or 7 hours on the phone trying to find an accessible piece of accommodation when I first arrived. I have not been able to find one. I was lucky enough to find a venue that would be willing to make some modifications in their own expense and dramatically lower the price so that the cost of accommodation would be covered by my allowances. If I had a different kind of impairment or higher or more complex support needs, I wouldn't be able to have made do in the way that I've just been able to do for these last 4 months while they've been retrofitting my office, and therefore I wouldn't have been able to speak or work on behalf of my constituents in WA. And a building which places that kind of constraint on people literally locks people out of the process for months and months at a time should they be elected is simply unacceptable in modern Australia.